Welcome back. This is Steve Welliver, and I'm going to present Deprogramming Lesson 4, where we're going to take a look at the early Soviet creation of anti-racism and the rejection of neutrality. We're going to get straight to the heart of the matter, quoting Stalin at the 10th Party Congress in 1921. And just a quick side note before I start the quote. The word national here refers to ethno-racial minority groups. So just be ready to translate that in your head when you hear the word national. All right, here we go. Quote, whereas private property and capital inevitably disunite people, foment national strife, and intensify national oppression, collective property and labor just as inevitably unite people, strike at the root of national strife, and abolish national oppression. The existence of capitalism without national oppression is just as inconceivable as the existence of socialism without the liberation of the oppressed nations. Then he kind of repeats himself, in other words, and ends up closing that paragraph with, hence, the victory of the Soviets and the establishment of the proletarian dictatorship are a fundamental condition for abolishing national oppression, establishing national equality, and guaranteeing the rights of national minorities. So there it is. What makes the country racist? Private property and capital. And what makes it anti-racist is the dictatorship of the proletariat and the collectivization of all property and labor. Lenin, in his notes dated at the official founding of the Soviet Union, says, quote, that is why internationalism on the part of the oppressors, or great nations as they are called, must consist not only in the observance of formal equality of nations, but even in an inequality of the oppressor nation, the great nation that must make up for the inequality which it obtains in actual practice. Anybody who does not understand this has not grasped the real proletarian attitude to the national question. So the very founding principle of the Soviet Union was one of anti-racism, of an inequality of the ethno-racial majority and discrimination against it. Anti-racism requires a rejection of neutrality, a rejection of racial equality under the law. I'm going to read from Harvard Russian history professor Terry Martin's 2001 book, The Affirmative Action Empire, because here he picks some quotes from Grigory Zinoviev of the Central Committee at the 12th Party Congress in 1923. And it says here, quote, by the 1923 Party Congress, neutrality had become anathema. Zinoviev himself now stated, we should first of all reject the theory of neutralism. We cannot adopt the point of view of neutralism. We should help the non-Russians create their own schools, should help them create their own administration in their native languages. Communists should not stand to the side and think up the clever phrase neutrality. Neutrality, Zinoviev insisted, was simply a cover for Great Russian chauvinism. Now, in recent years in America, many associate the term anti-racism from the black-faced Bolshevik Ibram X. Kendi. And I'm going to give a quote from him that sort of parrots what was going on at the 12th Party Congress. Quote, the most threatening racist movement is not the alt-right's unlikely drive for a white ethno-state, but the regular Americans' drive for a race-neutral one. Of course, Kendi is a communist copycat who never cites Lenin, Stalin, and the members of the Central Committee, whose evil ideas he's plagiarized. And it was in 2020 when the flood of anti-racism really hit K-12 institutions. The mission of our schools more or less changed completely to mirror that of Lenin and Stalin a century earlier. I'll go through just a few quotes from 2020. This is from the National Council of Teachers of English. Quote, we see no place for neutrality and urge each member of NCTE to educate as many people as possible about the ways that systemic racism affects all of us in negative ways. Now I'm going to read a longer one from the Seattle School District administrators to one of its elementary schools. Your school has committed to participate in the anti-racist pedagogy series facilitated by members of the Center for Racial Equity culturally responsive teacher leadership cadre, and the ethnic studies advisory group. Just right there, you got 3 separate units of woke bureaucracy involved in that anti-racism training. While anti-racist practices, culturally responsive teaching, and ethnic studies are top priorities in our district, as managers of this series, we must protect the educator leaders who do the heavy lifting for this effort. Recruiting and retaining educators of color is a prominent goal of our strategic plan. 1 or more of the educators of color in the groups we manage have reported the climate in your building has caused further emotional harm to educators of color, including racial and gender microaggressions or explicit acts of whiteness. This is a violation of the equity policy number 0030. Okay, it goes on. For these reasons, a decision has been made to suspend the anti-racist pedagogy series for your school until your staff has committed to and completed remedial efforts to prepare them for the learning in the series. We advise you to reach out to the Department for Racial Equity Advancement, DREA, to ask for support and all staff training on microaggressions and exploring whiteness. We recognize that this decision jeopardizes your fulfillment of the strategic plan for the school and the district. So it turns out the elementary wasn't ready for the indoctrination of anti-racism, and they were referred to a re-education camp, another unit of woke bureaucracy inside the district. So those 2 examples from just 5 years ago really show the rejection of neutrality and undermining of equal protections under the law through discrimination against the majority that were the core components of the Soviet version of anti-racism 100 years ago. So those are kind of the key takeaways from this deprogramming lesson, and to go back to the beginning and paraphrase Stalin, it's only the socialist state that can free minorities from oppression. This will give us a good foundation for a subsequent lesson on equity.